I'll be sending out this link.
Okay. The world is in darkness and hates the light. And remember what Isaiah said. They'll give you darkness and call it light, because they want you dead. But fight for life with all your might. It was for life that our forefathers bled. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is yet another week in Jihad with the great, the one, the only, the David, the Wood, and me, your host, Robert Spencer, author of the Quran. Welcome. Unfortunately, there is some jihad this week. You might be surprised to hear. I know. It's
No, all I've heard is about Israel bombing people. I haven't heard about any jihad.
There's so much jihad, David. Really, the more we talk about how much jihad there is, the less we'll get to. So, shall we start with Israel or finish up with Israel? What do you have any preference here?
Your show, sir.
All right, let's start with Israel because that's on everybody's mind. Of course, we have Ghazi Hamad, one of the top dogs of the Hamas political bureau, and he said, we will repeat the October 7th attack. Look for October 7th, October 10th, October 1 million, because he said we're going to keep on hitting Israeli civilians until Israel is annihilated. And he said, because we are the victims, everything we do is justified. What do you think, David? Is there any... Surely that has nothing to do with Islam, right?
No, of course not, because, if we know anything about ethics in Islam, it's that the fundamental guiding principle is moral consistency. Only doing to others what you would have them do to you. And since Muhammad expelled the Jews and Christians from the Arabian Peninsula and only wanted a pure Muslim population and called for the extermination of Jews everywhere, there's no way that this guy's going to point out anyone else as being a problem here.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And also when he says everything we do is justified, it reminded me of the famed Quran verse in 2:191 or 190 and 2:17 that is, persecution is worse than slaughter. That is, the fighting in the sacred month is an awesome evil, but persecution is worse than slaughter. In other words, you can fight during the sacred month when fighting is prohibited if you are being persecuted. So really every moral code can be set aside for the good of Islam. And here he is. I actually forgot that I had a picture of him here. Here's the charming Ghazi Hamad. Notice his impressive Zebiba.
He's got the killer Zebiba.
That is one of the most severe Zebibas I have ever seen.
That Zebiba is zabangin'.
Yes, it is. And this is an I believe he's unnamed. This is an imam in France. And he is in trouble these days for calling for the murder of Jews on social media. And so he is... he actually did it on Facebook, and I thought that's funny because Facebook has been... causing me a lot of trouble lately. I'm on there just because people say, oh no, you have to stay on Facebook. You get referrals from it for Jihad Watch. And I think, I'm not even sure that's true anymore because it's so, the site, the Facebook site is so shadow banned and so on. And they even gave me a strike. They said they were restricting my account for nudity because I posted a still picture taken from a story we talked about a few weeks ago of the son of the Chechen leader. And he was beating up this guy who had burned the Quran and savagely beating him. But both of them were fully clothed. There was no nudity in the photo at all. It's just that it was a bit grainy, a still taken from a video. And Facebook, of course, with no appeal whatsoever, they just decided that this was unacceptable. But this guy, he's fine. He ran into trouble with the French authorities, but there's no indication that Facebook had any trouble with him calling for the murder of Jews.
Well, and notice, as far as this is something we've all critics of jihad terror have been on the receiving end of for quite some time, namely getting content taken down where we obviously didn't violate any sort of rule, let alone the rule that we're being accused of. There's just no connection between what they say they're taking it down for and what they're actually taking it down for. But this is just so everyone knows, this is kind of the process. It's when you put up some content, all your haters will flag that, and they'll flag it for every possible thing they can, knowing just statistically some of those flags and complaints are going to catch a sympathetic eye of someone at Facebook, right? In other words, these things go to some Facebook moderator, and it might be someone who actually is trying to enforce the rules correctly, and so they will say, no, there's nothing wrong here. But other people are, oh yeah, it's Robert Spencer, ban, and they
go.
And, yeah.
So, well, one day when Jihad ends, I'll get off Facebook forever, and that will be a great day. Anyway, in Italy, this is or was a memorial to 2 Jews from Italy who were sent to Auschwitz and murdered during World War II and the Holocaust. And you see that the memorial is not in very good condition because it has just been burned. And this was reported only in the Italian press, but it is on Jihad Watch. The mayor of Rome said that Rome firmly condemns this unacceptable and hateful gesture, solidarity with the entire Jewish community of our city. But what do you think, David? Why would somebody want to burn a Holocaust memorial marker?
All I was actually thinking right now is that if the leaders in Rome are anything like our leaders, that was gonna be a segue. It's gonna be, we condemn this, and that's why we all need to combat Islamophobia. It's like that's the transition I've seen every single time. It's been, oh look at what's going on this campus, and they're calling for the deaths of Jews and the extermination of Israel. This is why we need to combat Islamophobia, ladies and gentlemen. And you're like, wait, what?
It's true.
Say what? No, so I was expecting that. I was actually shocked that your little description there didn't end with the mayor of Rome calling for the end of Islamophobia.
It is unusual. Some people are waking up. Some people are not. Some people are digging in. This is Ahed Tamimi. And you can see from the photo that she was featured a few years back in Vogue magazine. She was 17 and very stylish, her hair blowing in the wind. And she wrote a piece, or I think probably had it ghostwritten, in Vogue explaining what it was like to be a victim of the terrible Israelis and to be a poor Palestinian. But Ahed Tamimi on her Instagram this week posted a message saying to the Jews, we will drink your blood and eat your skull.
I bet that's going to be in the next issue of Vogue.
The drinking blood and eating skull edition of Vogue. Everybody will be lining up for that one. All right. We are moving along briskly here this evening, David. This is unusual. I don't know, we might even run out of jihad, but I kind of doubt that.
Moving, I can always sing. Moving right along.
Yep.
I don't remember the words.
This is Mahmoud Abdelhadi. And he is a wise old man, as you can see, frail, venerable. If you watch the video from which this is taken, actually the original, which is you can readily find on YouTube, I watched the original, and he walks up very haltingly with a cane, and the congregation is there waiting respectfully as he sits down to preach. Yeah,
of course, because every one of his talks is like, I remember when Muhammad came back and told us.
That's him.
I remember when we invaded Khaybar, and I told Muhammad, hey, don't take that meal from that Jewish woman. But he's like, no, she's a great cook. She's a great cook. And that's why I'm still here, ladies and gentlemen, and he's not. Who are you going to listen to?
He was the guy who jumped up
Yeah.
and said, "I've been poisoned." All right, so yes, Mahmoud Abdel Hadi, October 21st. That's a little bit longer than a week, but it was just posted at the Middle East Media Research Institute. He said that October 7th was a great victory, like 9/11, and that the Muslims would soon be in charge everywhere, simply based on demographics. That they're reproducing, and he kept saying, and the Europeans, they are in minus. They are in minus.
I saw that.
And meaning that, of course, they are not at replacement level.
Yeah.
For
and I was thinking, you mean decline? What? Wait, what? What are you talking about? They're in minus. They're in minus. Minus.
Yes, he thought that was a big point. They are in minus, and so the thing about Mahmoud Abdel Hadi is that he's not preaching in Mecca or Medina. He's not preaching in Baghdad or Riyadh. He is in Ellicott City, Maryland. And so he is yet another indication of our wonderful commitment to multiculturalism, which, as from the looks of things, might come back to bite us in some way. All right. No, you don't think so? We're going to march together into the glorious multicultural future?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I still can't get around the idea that, like, every single thing that we've been saying for the past 2 decades about what is going to happen is coming to pass. And we have been called liars the entire time. We have been 100% accurate. 100% accurate about everything that's happening. And we're called liars by everyone the entire time.
And of course, it's more virulent than ever and more ridiculous. I don't know if you saw yesterday, I was working on my book of Muhammad, a Critical Biography, and I just happened upon a hadith where it said that Muhammad did not wash after having sexual relations. And of course, there are the other hadiths about that and about him going to all of his wives on one night. But he would wash his hair with marshmallow. And so I thought that was funny. I posted it on Twitter. I got inundated with people saying, "Liar! Liar!" And "You are an idiot! You're stupid! It does not say marshmallow, it says hibiscus!" But of course, the marshmallow comes from itsuna.com. Like, these people don't know Arabic, itsuna.com. They have no idea how to translate it. Yeah. And then it got even more absurd, because then people started sending me all these marshmallow hair products, and it turns out that marshmallow really is a thing people wash their hair with, and so there's no mistranslation whatsoever. Muhammad used it, so what? But they were embarrassed by it because I was quoting it, and so it was all, "You are liar! You are Islamophobe!" Well, you know the drill.
Yeah, and think about the thing. You've got these hadiths where Muhammad, in order to impress his followers, runs around having sex with all 9 of his wives in a single night, right?
Yep.
And he does this and brags about it. We know, because, I mean, think about it. If I had a bunch of wives and I was, just quietly going around having my way with all of them, no one's going to know. You just see me go into a house. But Muhammad's followers all know he's banging 9 wives in a single night. What's that mean? Muhammad's kissing and telling. He's walking out. He's like, just finish up with Hafsa. On my way to Aisha, my favorite. Woohoo! Right? So he's running his mouth about this, right? That doesn't bother them. That doesn't bother them at all. They think that's great. That's why they bragged about him being the Superman of sex, right? So you've got that. That doesn't bother them. They think that's cool. Then you've got the other issue, which says that the hadith say that he would only take one bath. He would only take one bath the entire time, right? Once he wraps up wife number 9. And you're thinking, what would it be like to be wife number 9 in that marathon of sex? He just went to one wife. Keep in mind, this is Medina. Hot summer, it gets up to 118 degrees there in the summer. So he's sitting there, he bangs one wife, works up a nice sweat, then goes to the next wife, works up an even nastier sweat. He's got her fluids all over him. And by the time you get to wife number 9, I don't care how much marshmallow he's roasting in his hair. He could cook s'mores with his head. I don't care. This dude has the sexual fluids of 9 women and girls all over him in a hot, burning desert. And that doesn't bother them at all. It's just, yeah, you use the Sunnah.com translation of marshmallow, you liar. What is this really? Like, what makes people like this? Like their priority. You got your gross profit. The nastiest thing I can imagine. Right?
Yes.
Just this guy must have smelled like I don't know. I don't know what he smelled like, but I would rather smell the camels than whatever this guy would have smelled like by the end there. And
not only that, he must have looked a fright. Not only with the marshmallow in his hair, but also with his beard dyed henna. I used to see those guys when I was a young man. I used to see those guys on the street in New York City, and with the very clearly pious Muslims with the kufi and the hair, the beard dyed orange, and they looked ludicrous. They looked like clowns with the orange beard. And it wasn't until later, of course, I started to study the Hadith and saw, oh, it's because Muhammad had his beard dyed this way. So you got this guy with this orange beard and marshmallow all over his hair.
Marshmallow's head looking like in Ghostbusters when they blew up the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man and marshmallow shot all over everybody. So he's sitting there looking like one of those guys, smelling like an entire herd of young bulls. Also covered in semen. We know from Aisha that he would be constantly covered in semen. And think about this. Think about this, really, Robert. Think about this, because we can't get past it. So he's covered in semen. He's covered in the fluids of various wives, and then right here in the middle of my sexathon, I gotta head to the mosque for prayer, and hug it out with all my buddies. Oh hey, oh yeah, I'm about to go round number 5 here. High five, yeah, and hug it out, yeah. My goodness, it's like disgusting. This is the most disgusting person ever, and he's the pattern of conduct. Wow,
that's it, man. All right, enough levity.
No, there will be more. I know
there will be more levity. Yeah. I don't know. Too much levity, folks? No, don't say yes. Don't say yes. If you don't laugh, you have to cry.
If this ever gets boring or too sad, just so everyone knows in advance, I will be bringing up the hadiths that declare the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. I will do it. So I've got that one in my back pocket, ladies and gentlemen. But Sunan Abu Dawud, number 203, Muhammad declared, the eyes are the leather strap of the anus. So if there's ever a dull moment, I'm bringing that up.
You know, David, since you have mentioned it now, I got to ask, do you have any idea what the heck that could mean?
I actually had to look up the commentary, because some of them actually have commentaries in the hadiths that what that's about. So it took me a while to get it. But so the idea is that the leather strap referred to a strap on a water bottle, right? So they didn't have caps like this. Mm. They'd have a leather strap that you wrap around to seal your water bottle, right? Okay. And so the idea is that when you are awake during the day, you have conscious control. Your butthole is under the control of your will. You can control what comes out of your butt while you're awake. Well, so this is what your eyes are open, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like you've got your leather strap around your bottle, so that nothing's going to leak out, right? But he points out that when you close your eyes, so he's talking about when you go to sleep. When you go to sleep, the eyes, which is the leather strap of the anus, they close, and then you don't have control over it, and it sort of opens up. Oh. And so what stuff you don't have control when you're sleeping over what leaks out of your butthole, and therefore be sure to perform your ablutions. That's what. So several of the versions of the hadith will say the eyes are the leather strap of the anus, so perform your ablutions. And what he means is wake up, because you don't know what slipped out of your butt, especially if you're Muhammad, and who knows what's been going on. This is the dude who's covered in semen, right? I mean, he's covered in semen. We don't know if it's his. We don't know anything, right? And then you've got all these hadiths where his buddy Dihya al-Kalbi, that's Dihya the dog, right? He calls him dog apparently because
Al-Kalbi.
yeah, something the dog, right? This guy likes it. We know this guy. We know what this guy's into. Right? So, but there are all these hadiths where Muhammad's talking to his wives and he's saying, "Hey, you know who just walked away from the house?" And they're like, "Who?" And he goes, "That's the angel Gabriel." And they're like, "Wait, no, that's Dihya al-Kalbi." And he's like, "No, that's the angel Gabriel." And his wife's like, "What? Why does the angel Gabriel look just like Dihya al-Kalbi?" He's like, "Oh, that's the form that Gabriel takes on." And like, wait, you got this young, he's apparently the handsomest dude around, which is why Gabriel takes the appearance of Dihya al-Kalbi. But Muhammad's constantly got Dihya walking out of his house saying, no, that was the angel Gabriel here, ladies and gentlemen. And then afterwards, he can't control what comes out of his butt at night? Come on.
Is that the guy that Muhammad pulls up his shirt and he gets to kiss his side?
No, it's a different dude. It's a different dude. That was a different dude smooching up. And that dude, he gets Muhammad to pull up his shirt and then he smooches him all up and down his side. And he's going, "This is what I wanted, oh Prophet. Oh, yes, this is what I wanted." Right?
That's right. That's what the Hadith says.
Dihya al-Kalbi, that was the guy who, at the Battle of Khaybar, when Muhammad says, "Dihya, you're so great. I love you so much. You get to pick the hottest woman in town." And so he picks Safiya, whose husband had just been tortured to death by Muhammad and his followers, to find out where the Jews had hidden their money. And then it gets brought to Muhammad's attention, hey, wait a minute, Safiya is like the hottest babe on the planet. You can't let Dihya take her. So he says Dihya can get some other girls and so on. But notice, like, his top pick is this guy that he keeps this over his house all the time, and he keeps saying that's the angel Gabriel. And then, okay, you get whatever you want, dude. Just don't snitch on me.
All right, over in Paris, David.
What a great transition.
Speaking of perversity, in Paris, we have the same thing we had in Berlin last week, that people are painting Stars of David on the homes of Jewish residents. And so that is an extremely ominous development, reminiscent, of course, of Nazi Germany. Meanwhile, in Louisiana, in Tulane University, there was a pro-Israel demonstration where there was the first, and I doubt it will be the last, violence in these demonstrations, when a pro-Israel student had his nose broken by a pro-Hamas protester. Of course, as we have discussed, violence is the only tool in their box. It's all that they have to settle any issue.
That should be a little skit, like AP could do it as Shake Your Booty or something like that. He's going around and, oh, my toilet's broken. What do we do? And he opens up his box and the only thing in there is it just says violence in there.
That's not bad. Yeah.
And so he smashes the toilet to pieces or something with us.
Yep.
Or he starts hacking it with a sword. It's our only tool. This is our only tool.
That's right. Paradise is under the shade of swords. All right, let's see. At Cornell University, of course, we had a famous, a widely publicized incident in which a non-Muslim student, apparently a far-left student, he threatened to kill and rape Jewish students, saying, "If I see a pig male Jew, I will stab you and slit your throat. If I see another pig female Jew, I will drag you away and rape you and throw you off a cliff. If I see a pig baby Jew, I will behead you in front of your parents." Now, not clear yet what this guy was trying to do, but it did strike me that even if he is not a jihadi, there's nothing he said that jihadis would reject. That's exactly what they did do on October 7th.
Mm-hmm. By the way, you don't have a picture of that guy?
No, I don't. I didn't get a picture of him. I'm sorry. What's his name? Let me see. Oh, it's not in the story I've got. I'd have to find one.
You're going to want to find one, Robert.
Yeah? Okay.
What's that guy's name?
I don't remember his name. Let's see. Cornell student arrested. Okay, we're getting warmer here.
His name is Patrick Dye, D-A-I.
Patrick Dye.
Yeah.
Patrick Dye, who wants the Jews to die.
Die. Mm-hmm.
Patrick Dye. Oh, yeah, he looks tough. Is this the guy? Patrick Dye? Let's see. Just a second.
Trust me, everyone. It's worth waiting for.
Okay, here we go.
We've got
David.
the new face of Jihad sympathizers.
There he is. Patrick Dye.
So
Hey,
this guy's running around threatening to slaughter Jews.
Yeah.
Hey, that dude, that's the same dude. He threatened me once. He threatened to do my math homework.
Oh man, you're on fire tonight.
Like, I will do your math homework in the name of God.
Yes, okay. Oh yeah, where was that one? Hang on. Oh, here it is. This Palestinian father, he was handing out candies. He said his children had been killed, and so he's out on the street in in Gaza, apparently. I'm not sure where he was, but anyway, he says he's saying Allahu Akbar. He's saying La ilaha illallah, and he is explaining that his children are all martyrs, and this is why he's handing out candy. But one interesting thing he says in the middle of all this is, we are carrying out ribat from today and forever. Now, a ribat, ladies and gentlemen, that is a specific kind of jihad war to claim Islamic land that has been lost. The idea is drive them out from where they drove you out, as in chapter 2, 191 of the Quran. And so if you drive out, I mean, the Israelis didn't actually drive the Arabs out, but it's the myth that they did, and consequently they have a responsibility to wage jihad, fight a ribat, to reclaim the land. It's important to note this because still in the West we have the commonplace idea that this is some dispute over land that can be settled by negotiations. But actually, these people don't want anything but the total destruction of Israel. Did you hear about the Dagestan thing, David?
Yeah, I call it Durkistan.
Yes. Dagestan in the Caucasus in Russia, Muslim republic, and they found out that a flight was coming in from Tel Aviv. Now, why people in Tel Aviv wanted to fly to Dagestan right now, I don't know.
Yeah, that seems like the last place in the world, apart from like Gaza, that I would want to be flying into.
Yeah, exactly.
Or from Tel Aviv.
So the flight gets in, and they're immediately hustled back into a bus, the shuttle bus, because there was a large mob of Muslims in the airport, screaming, of course, Allahu Akbar, and hunting for the Jews, wanting to kill them. And then, interesting thing, Dili Hussein, the editor of Five Pillars in the UK, said this is how Jews should be greeted in all the airports in Muslim countries.
Collective punishment, isn't that? Isn't that collective punishment? Just anyone, just everywhere?
Yeah, I do believe it is. And also in the Cooper Union in New York City, we had Jewish students locked into the college library.
Well, yeah, I've spoken at Cooper's Union a couple times when I was when I lived in New York. I spoke to the Christian group there. But yeah, we didn't have to be locked in. We didn't have to be locked in hiding.
But there was a raging pro-Hamas crowd outside, and so they had to lock them in for their own protection.
Wait, in the U.S.?
In New York City. I don't know if that's really the U.S.
In New York City?
New York City.
At Cooper Union.
At Cooper Union.
Wow. That's a big tech school.
Yep. So it's a good thing they didn't know how to pick the lock. Mm-hmm. They might have known how to hack it. All right. Meanwhile, in Turkey,
They're lucky Patrick Dye wasn't there, because I guarantee he knew how to hack a system.
Erdogan, the president of Turkey, said at a pro-Hamas rally, "We can come at any night unexpectedly." And the crowd began chanting, "Turkish military to Gaza! Turkish military to Gaza!" Now, David, can you explain what on earth interest Turkey has in this conflict? Why would they think that it has anything to do with them?
Well, I'm just, well, I mean, they were at one point all part of the same empire, but I have no idea why Turkey would think that they would fare any better now than they did under the Ottoman Empire. But yeah, I am confused. It's got to be just thumping his chest because Turkey has some other goals that take precedence over that. It looks like he's just trying to flex for all the jihadis, so they'll start rallying around him, and he can get them to go take some of the stuff he wants back.
Yep. He does actually, he has made it clear he wants to restore the Ottoman Empire, and so that would include Israel, but it also includes Greece, seems to be number one on his wish list, as well as Armenia. Yes?
Hang on, isn't Turkey our close ally?
Yep, NATO.
Oh, okay. Well, we got nothing to worry about then.
Yeah, they love us. Okay, moving back to New York City. Should have kept the New York City stories together, I know. We had a 9-year-old Jewish boy playing in a park. Let me see if we have the park. The playground at KIPPAMP Middle School. I don't know if that's Kip Amp or I don't know what that is, all those initials. But anyway, this is in Crown Heights in New York City. And a teenager came up shouting, "Heil Hitler, I will kill you, Jew," and the old standby, Allahu Akbar. The Jew hatred we have seen around the world is really absolutely incredible over the last few weeks. It's become normalized, it's become standard, it's become expected. In Germany, a pro-Hamas demonstrator screamed, "I want Adolf Hitler back. I'm for Hitler," gasped the Jews. So this wasn't just this one kid in New York City, but it's all over. Meanwhile, the object of their affections, Hamas, there were some documents found that showed that the jihadis on October 7th were intentionally targeting elementary schools and a youth center. In Colorado, David, we have an imam. What's this guy's name? What's his name?
His name is Durka Muhammad Jihad Allah.
His name is Umar Mitchell.
Oh, that was... I have to confess, I was expecting something way cooler.
Masjid Umar ibn al-Khattab in Aurora, Colorado. Umar Mitchell. You think he's a convert? And he's talking to the kids in his mosque. And he is talking about the Jews. They were given covenants, promises, and agreements that they were supposed to follow. What did they do every single time? They break their covenant. They lie and break their contract. Should you trust these people today? And the kids say, no. The Israelites were sent many, many messengers and prophets. They killed some of them. They even tried to kill Jesus. And then he goes on to say they were fishing on the Sabbath. They were transformed into monkeys. Does this sound like a people you want to do business with? No! And so he's indoctrinating the kids into this same hatred.
Yeah, and I mean we've been seeing for years the videos on Palestinian TV and so on where they start indoctrinating the kids at a very young age, and they're raising these kids so that they become jihadis eventually, and but in a weird way, you kind of get it from their perspective in Palestine. It's what they're, we're just all about jihad. That's what we do here. That's what we're obsessed with. Of course, we're going to raise every child to be a jihadi. But Colorado now doing the same thing. Hey, let's make sure we educate these kids from a very young age that they're permanent, ongoing enemy, as the Quran says, are the Jews.
Well, it shows that this is not about politics. It's not about land. This is a religious conflict rooted in Islamic teaching. Another little bit of Nazi-like activity comes out of Istanbul, which is Constantinople, occupied Constantinople, where a shopkeeper put a sign at the front of his store. You can see it there: Jews not allowed. Not Zionists, not Israelis, Jews.
I like how you called it occupied. I think we should be referring to every place that is controlled by Muslims as occupied, because they took it all.
Occupied Medina, where the Jews need right of return.
Occupied Mecca, conquered by Muhammad.
Yep.
Free Mecca, free Mecca. Stole. I mean, think about this. Went and took it from the pagans who just wanted their trade routes and didn't want to be interfered with. Muhammad shows up with an army of 10,000, takes over the city, and then tells everyone, "Okay, guys, once these months are up, we're going to kill you wherever you find you. So convert or get out of here."
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting because the things we keep seeing over and over and over again that the entire world is accusing Jews of doing, according to your book, the Palestinian delusion isn't actually what happened. But if you just go with what they say happened, in other words, if we just take their version of events, here's what you say happened. Historically, factually, it's not what happened. But even if we go with your version of events, you college student protesters, it's not what Israel did. It's exactly what Muhammad and his followers did for 14 centuries. It's what Muhammad did. It's what Muhammad did in Medina. It's what Muhammad did in Mecca. It's what Muhammad did in all of Arabia. It's what his followers did for 14 centuries. It's what they've always done. Israel didn't do that, and yet you say Israel's evil for doing exactly what Muslims did for 14 centuries, starting with Muhammad.
Yep.
Weird rules.
From the Persian Gulf to the Red Sea, Saudi Arabia will be free.
We're going to see it happen.
Yep. All right, Los Angeles. Man named Daniel Garcia, the Patrick died before Patrick died, Daniel Garcia, breaks into a Jewish family's home. And once he's in there, he screams, "Kill Jews and free Palestine." What does Daniel Garcia care about Palestine? Probably he's just a leftist who heard that the Jews were terrible. And all this comes from the Leftist Islamic Alliance and the jihad against Israel that the left has vigorously embraced.
And it's just, again, everyone's true colors are showing. You've had this war going on in Yemen, and you have Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, and they're targeting civilians. They're blowing up weddings and so on. You've got all these pictures of kids who are absolutely starving. They're kids who can't even, they're on the ground. They look like skeletons covered in skin because they're starving because of this ongoing war. An endless array of civilian men, women, and children all killed. You could walk up to any one of these college students who's protesting. They have no idea that it even happened. They have no idea what's going on. They don't know. They don't care. You've got the Uyghurs in China. No one really cares because they know you can complain all you want about China. China just doesn't care. It's not going to work. Pakistan just said that they're pushing out 1.7 million Afghan refugees. So refugees went from Afghanistan to Pakistan, and some of them have been there for decades. They've got houses and so on. Pakistan is bulldozing their houses, just bulldozing through there and just pushing them out. They've got nowhere to go. These are refugees from Afghanistan. They're being pushed back into Afghanistan, where they will not be warmly received. No one cares about any of this. Why? Because it's either communist on Muslim violence or it's Muslim on Muslim violence, and the only violence that matters is if there's a Jew involved, or occasionally if there's a Western government involved. But other than that, Muslims can kill Muslims all day long. You will not hear a peep out of anyone. Saudi Arabia could start slaughtering people left and right. Sunnis killing Shias, blowing up each other's mosques. No one cares. No one expects any better from them. But if a Jew is involved, then the entire world rallies around the helpless Palestinian. As long as all these protesters and other nations and so on don't have to take in a single Palestinian refugee child.
Yep. Here's an indication of that. Moving on to the stupid infidels portion of our program, we have a CNN story that ran on Tuesday. Palestinian American family mourns 42 relatives killed in a single day in Gaza. But if you read the story, it sounds, oh dear, 42, those terrible Israelis, 42 relatives of this one family in Maple Grove, Minnesota. Yeah. But then you get to this paragraph. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth paragraph down. Okay? 5 paragraphs into the story. Most people have stopped reading by this point. Mm-hmm. CNN cannot independently confirm that it was an Israeli strike. The Israel Defense Forces, IDF, said it could not comment without coordinates of the house. The family declined to provide CNN with the coordinates for fear of reprisal.
Nice.
Yes.
So it's hey, this is what happened to us. Can you give any evidence? No. You just have to trust us on this. Well, since you guys are the pillars of honesty and integrity and honest reporting, we'll just take your word for it. In case we get exposed later, in case our news agency gets exposed later, we'll have buried down in there that we haven't confirmed any of this and we have no evidence for it except trust me, bro. So we'll bury it there. But yeah, as you pointed out, most people don't read down that far. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of people see the headline. That's what they look at. Right. So I don't know what the percentage is. Probably 90 to 95% of people read the headline, and that's as far as they go. And then they run around. Look at what happened. Now, keep in mind there is horrible stuff happening. There are people getting killed and so on. But when you see people constantly lying, I don't know. It just seems to me that you'd want it pretty clear from the beginning. Hey guys, this is still under investigation. Yeah. But no.
And we've seen them lie just recently about this. There was, of course, the famous news of the hospital strike. 500 people killed. And then it turned out, well, Israel didn't do it. It was Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Oh, it wasn't the hospital. It was the parking lot of the hospital. Oh, it wasn't 500 people killed. It was 10. But it was the official Gaza health ministry, which is, of course, run by Hamas, that said 500 people were killed. The international media ran with it. Meanwhile, we have Judith Butler.
And I just wanted to point out that once the story spreads, you can't undo the story, right? Once they spread the story about the hospital, there are still people left and right. I see them every day saying that that the IDF destroyed this hospital and killed hundreds of people, including a couple hundred kids. And it doesn't. Once you've spread it, then they regard any follow-up story or clarification as propaganda, as Jewish propaganda, Jews controlling the media, trying to derail the story, and they won't accept it. They won't accept any correction later on. That's part of the reason you need to be really careful, because the moment you report something, everyone runs with it, and then later on when you correct it, oops, that's not how it happened. No. This is just a conspiracy trying to cover up the original story.
That's it. Judith Butler, very famous professor. She is a professor at the University of California, Berkeley. She is one of the leading theorists of the idea that gender is fluid, that there are lots of genders, that you can switch from one to the other. And she was captured on video. Video circulated this week, although it's a bit older than that, saying that Hamas and Hezbollah are progressive and part of the global left. What do you think Hamas and Hezbollah would say if Judith Butler showed up, told them her pronouns were they, them, and that she was non-binary and a lesbian?
My heart says they would embrace her because, I've just been conditioned to feel like that. But my head says they would do something totally different.
Yeah, I'm afraid she might not find it all that pleasant. Another Judith, This is Judith Clark, an old photo. She's now in her 70s, I believe. She was one of the Weathermen. You may remember the Weathermen in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They were a group of far-left terrorists. They robbed a Brinks truck in 1981, and 3 police officers were killed. Judith Clark went to prison. She was later pardoned, said to have reformed, rejected violence, but she showed up this week at a pro-Palestinian rally. The left Islamic Alliance appears to be in very fine shape.
Isn't it weird? It just looked like it. It just looked like it was breaking down, right? Like,
Yep.
you had Muslims all of a sudden who declared that they're actually going to be on the political right. They're giving up on the left. No pride flags in this town anymore. They start, they all go like full Andrew Tate, and Ali Dawa says that the reason people are going to convert to Islam are specifically because of its intolerance, that everyone's promoting tolerance and they're getting sick of it. So now we're just going to proclaim intolerance. Yes, of course, we're going to kill apostates. We're going to slaughter all the LGBTQ. We're going to do all that stuff. Yes, intolerance, 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 intolerance. And then you see all these articles. We talked about some of them of, our hearts are broken that Muslims aren't supporting us. We supported them for decades. And now the moment we want to do something with their kids, they turn on us. Oh, the horror. We think, the alliance has finally broken down, but nothing, and I mean nothing, will unite the left and jihadis back together again like the Jews.
Yep. They do seem to have patched things up, but there are still a few bugs. There are still a few problems. And one of them was exemplified by this. This is the... Yeah, there it is. It's a new gay flag, David.
Woo!
And
it's the LGBTQ with the Palestinian.
Yes.
These guys are nuts. These guys are absolutely insane.
Yes, because meanwhile, we have Sheikh Mohammed Salim Ali and preaching in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He said, "Our Muslim Palestinian people will not accept a single homosexual openly declaring his abomination. Will you allow a single homosexual in the land of Jerusalem and Palestine? Will you allow that? No." And so he doesn't like these Queers for Palestine people, but they don't seem to have gotten the message.
Nope, they're still thinking, hey, if we just keep unquestioningly supporting their jihad against Jews, their hearts will eventually melt, and they'll open the doors to every LGBTQ drag queen story, whatever, to go in there and read stories to the little Palestinian kids.
Yeah, they'll love that.
They will.
They'll be celebrating them as heroes.
Yep.
Another little crack in the alliance came in Detroit because Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan and some other leading members of the Democratic Party, they expressed support for Israel after October 7th. And of course, this is Michigan. And so, for example, Adam Abu Salah, a Palestinian in Dearborn, he said there's going to be an effort to not support the people who have not supported us, the people we've voted for such a long time, people we've helped, we've donated to, and we've worked on their campaigns, but now they feel betrayed.
It's weird to hear all these alliances that we have been saying for years are absolutely doomed from the start, and then everyone's confused later on when, hey, what's going on here? They don't get it.
Yep. Let me see.
We expect hearts to melt, and instead we're just getting broken hearts.
Let us go to a story out of Iran. It's getting late here, and we got to get to a lot of jihad that's not having to do with the jihad against Israel. In Iran, I believe we mentioned it last week, there was a 16-year-old girl, Armida Garivand, who was dragged off a train in Tehran for not wearing hijab. There's video of her walking through the station. She seems completely unperturbed, walking through the train station, not wearing hijab. But she was taken and beaten savagely. She ultimately died. And now we see Iranians all over the country once again chanting, "Down with the Islamic Republic," and "Death to the dictator." And so that's an interesting development. We'll see. I don't know how long the Islamic Republic can last. It's interesting to note that after all these years of Islam, people in Iran have had enough, and they don't want any more Islamic Republic.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like sort of what's going on with Turkey and lots of other places. It's like, hey, this is a good opportunity to distract everyone from other problems, right? Like there are other problems, there are other things we have to deal with. But now that we've got this whole thing going on with Israel and Palestine, everyone look over there, and then
Yeah.
maybe we cannot worry about this hijab thing anymore, or the apparent fact that Iran isn't even a Muslim majority country anymore. And so yeah, it looks to me it looks like everyone's doing that. Hey, we've got all these problems, we've got all these alliances breaking down, people objecting to us, to what we're doing, and all these other issues. But hey, look, Jews,
Yeah, that's it, man.
problem solved.
Huh. All right, we have Pope Francis, and he's at it again.
Woohoo!
Yeah, he never gives up. He never loses the plot.
There
Pope Francis.
is no mix-up. Pope Francis can't fix up.
That might be just the opposite. There's nothing that he can't ruin. He wrote a book, Non sei solo, sfide, risposte, speranze, and in his book, "You Are Not Alone: Challenges, Answers, Hopes," he says radical Islam is a problem. Okay, that's quite an insight.
It's pretty extreme.
Yeah, I know, he must be an Islamophobe. But he goes on to say, and represents a perversion of religiosity, because Islam, in truth, is a religion of peace, and the majority of its members are peaceful.
It's always fascinating to me because we've been dealing with this for decades, where U.S. politicians, journalists, people who've never studied Islam a day in their lives, nevertheless are experts on proclaiming what is and what is not Islam, and what Islam really teaches. And just like any random person, any news broadcaster can jump up and say, and what Islam really is this. And it's like, you can ask these people, what do you do with this passage? What do you do with that passage? They have no clue what you're talking about. They've never studied. It's this one subject where it's the only subject I can think of where the less you know about it, the more of an expert you are in your own eyes. Like you couldn't do that with anything else. You couldn't say, I've never taken a math class one day in my entire life. I didn't even learn kindergarten 1+. I didn't learn any of that. And yet I'm an expert on math, and I get to tell the rest of the world about math. And I get to tell actual mathematicians about math, even though they're mathematicians and I have no clue what I'm talking about. I'm an expert. And that's how people are with Islam. Oh, all these guys telling us exactly what Islam teaches, they don't know what they're talking about. I've never studied it, one word, one verse, but I'll tell everyone about what Islam really teaches. Wild stuff.
Yep. So that's the Pope. Meanwhile, more stupid infidels come out of Australia. We got here, this is Abdul Nasser bin Brika. And he's been, he's not a native Australian. You might be surprised to learn. And he was plotting jihad massacres at landmarks in Melbourne, Australia. And so he was stripped of his citizenship and was going to be deported back to Algeria. And so the Australian High Court just ruled on Wednesday that it was against the law to strip him of his citizenship. That even though he wants to destroy Australia, he wants to massacre Australian citizens, he himself is an Australian citizen, and they can't take that away from him. You know they can't take that away from him.
The way you make me feel.
The way you blow me up.
The way you scream Allahu Akbar, you can't take that away from me.
Yep, that's it. All right, let's see. More jihad elsewhere in the world. Of course, we always have Nigeria, where a Muslim college student, a Christian college student, was kidnapped, forced to convert to Islam. Why would they do that? That's un-Islamic, David, isn't it?
Making people convert to Islam, that's a big no-no.
Yep. There's no compulsion in religion, so why do they do it?
I have no idea, because that's the only verse in the Quran. No compulsion in religion. That's the only one. There's one verse in the Quran. I open up the Quran. There is one verse that says no compulsion in religion.
No, there's two, because there's also he who kills an innocent people. It's as if he's killed the whole world.
Well, that's not a full verse. They only quote the part of the verse that doesn't say this was a revelation of the Jews.
It's only, but that part of the verse is in the Quran.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there's no
that
compulsion
one part of the
in
verse.
religion, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very brief book.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the reason why they might do that is because they want the Islamic community to be growing at the expense of the non-Muslim community, in line with Islam's supremacist imperative, and so the idea is a kind of demographic jihad.
And it's also brilliant. I mean, you have an actual genocide of Nigerian Christians going on in Nigeria. You won't hear a peep about it, ever. You will not hear about this, but you will hear about Palestine.
In Uganda, there was a Christian preacher named Robert Setimba, who was making a lot of headway converting Muslims, and he was confronted in Kampala by 6 Muslims screaming, you guessed it, Allahu Akbar, and calling him kafir, started beating him with sticks. They beat him senseless, and they said that he was hurting Muslims by preaching about Islam and using the Quran in evangelization. Meanwhile, in Queen Elizabeth National Park, also in Uganda, another Christian who was working there as a tour guide, Muslims came up to him and said, we know you are the people who are supporting Christians in Uganda. And they killed him and 2 tourists. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, there were 30 Christians killed. In Nigeria, there was a grisly discovery as at a cattle market. The jihadis passed through, and then 80 corpses and 20 headless bodies were found. And let's see. In Paris, we had a veiled Muslim woman, and she was at the commuter rail station in Paris, and she was screaming, this is MAGA country. See, I know, I stole your joke there, David. She was screaming Allahu Akbar, and she threatened to blow the place up. Meanwhile, in a penitentiary in France, a Muslim also screaming Allahu Akbar injured a guard. In Bangladesh, there was a Hindu festival. Of course, the idols were broken. It just seems to be the same thing over and over all around the world, David. Why is it that there's such a dreary sameness to all this? Can you shed any light on that?
Yeah, it's this weird situation where Islamic preachers will say whatever they need to say in the moment, to satisfy and appease whatever groups are around them, whatever the concerns are. They can say whatever they want. If it's convenient to say Islam's a religion of peace and tolerance, and they'll say that. If it's convenient to form alliances with LGBTQ and so on, they'll do that. If it's convenient to say that Muhammad was the greatest feminist who ever lived, they'll say that. But over time, when it's time, then all of a sudden the true teachings rise to the surface. We've been saying all of that for decades because it's exactly what you find in the Muslim sources. You've literally got their playbook. I mean, imagine, Robert, going, your football team's about to face another football team, and you have their entire playbook right in front of you. Imagine you've got their entire playbook in your hand. You know every play. You see them call the play, and you've got the playbook. You know exactly what the play is, and somehow you're totally confused. What's going on here? We can't figure this out. What do you mean? We read the playbook and we told you all what the play is, and you still are totally confused when they do exactly what we told you the play was.
Yeah, the one thing we know is they won't go by the playbook. Nobody pays any attention to that.
Nope.
All right, lots of jihad this week, ladies and gentlemen. That's a small bit of it, but we could just go on for hours, and I'm an old man. So this has been yet another thrilling episode of This Week in Jihad. We can hope there will be no more episodes of this show ever, because, of course, there will be peace dawning as Muslims come to their senses and realize that they have hijacked their religion of peace. And they will all read Pope Francis's book, and they will sit down with Francis, enjoy a nice bowl of pasta, and agree Islam is peace. So till then, pray, hope, and don't worry.